Don't be so fast on, when it hits 800 million, okay, did it break? Well, if everything was static, then sure. But it isn't.
Renegade Online.
I honestly wish someone would audit Disney, because Lord knows there's got to be money going all kinds of places, because it doesn't make any sense.
They are a right mess. I want to pull this up just to kind of give you an idea when we talk about, now this is from PBD Podcast. Got a YouTube channel out there. And just in case, because I hate getting gigged for stupid copyright stuff, but this is something they posted on X. I thought this was great to show everybody, give you an idea. What each actor got paid for the Odyssey. Elliot Page, $1.5 million. John Leguizamo, $2.5 million. John Bernthal, $3 million. Lupita Nyong'o for $4 million. Charlize Theron for $5 million. Robert Pattinson, $6 million. Anne Hathaway, $7 million. Zendaya, $8 million. Tom Holland, $10 million. Matt Damon, $15 million. Right there is over $60 million. Again, we reportedly have a net $250 million budget. That doesn't include your writer-director, Chris Nolan. That doesn't include any of the producers or all these people above the line. You probably have easily, just in cast, producers, writer-director, $100 million before you've shot a single frame, built a set, or a stitch of clothing, costuming. Okay, so very, very expensive film. But wait, I'm going to make it even funkier, okay? How many people out there in the audience know the deal that Christopher Nolan reportedly got on this?
I've seen a lot of people mention this, and that is basically, now let's just be accurate with that, because some people I think have kind of gone cart before the horse, saying, oh, that means that the actual break even is X. Okay, yes, it does mean that they need to make a lot more to make like real profit. But the deal is, once they start making profits, then was it 10%, 15% goes to Nolan?
More than that.
More than that?
Forbes Magazine here. And here's the bottom. So he got $20 million up front as an advance.
Yeah.
Okay. And that $20 million up front is an advance against 20% of the return to the studio.
Mm-hmm.
So if this movie does $800 million, and roughly $400 million of that goes to the studio, Chris Nolan's paycheck is now $80 million.
Yeah. So,
and he gets a piece of the Peacock money, of course, and he also gets a piece of the Netflix money. So Chris Nolan's going to walk, this is going to be like Tom Cruise with Maverick. He's going to walk out of there with over $100 million.
Yeah.
So this is, and again, this is from Forbes. This is not Valiant Renegade or, something on subreddit. This is Forbes Magazine. For Chris Nolan, that box office prowess comes with a movie star-sized paydays. Forbes estimates that Universal paid him $20 million up front for the Odyssey as an advance against 20% of the studio's take from the box office gross. Now, again, the studio's take from the box office gross, audience, not the box office gross. He's not getting 20% of the retail.
And wait a minute. So that's the gross, meaning that's not profit. It's not 20% of the profit. It's 20% of the...
Not net.
Okay. Well, then guess what? That break even goes up higher. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was 20% of the profit. And I'm like, well, that won't impact break even all that much.
Points. That would be, that's what, like, a lot of participation deals. Basically, if you're not Tom Cruise and you're not Chris Nolan, you don't get to negotiate gross points. These guys do. Most people are like Robert Downey Jr., I promise you, probably has a gross points deal. The Russo brothers on Doomsday probably have a gross points deal. The $100 million that Disney paid the Russo brothers for Doomsday and Secret Wars or Secret Invasion or whatever the hell the second movie is, I don't know, whatever. That's probably also an advance on gross points.
That's going to be the most expensive film ever. I keep thinking about it.
It's going to be like Spider-Man No Way Home.
Minimum $400 million budget. Minimum.
Oh, it's more than that.
That's what I said. Minimum $400 million budget. And that's before marketing.
Oh, yeah.
Total cost between $800 and $1 billion probably with marketing.
Oh, easy. Yeah, I mean, Spider-Man No Way Home at $1.9 billion, that's break even for Doomsday.
Gosh.
I mean, seriously. I mean,
Yeah.
we know that they spent 1.3 billion before the tax credits, brought it down to about 1.1 billion, which was the film production company that housed Infinity War and Doomsday. Or, I'm sorry, Infinity War and Endgame. Pardon me. It's about $550–600 million on average a piece. That was going into pre-production like 10 years ago now.
That film's gonna, it's just when you thought, oh, Star Wars was able to make $1 billion film that lost money. Could they be able to make a $2 billion film that still loses money? We'll find out.
Could be.
It's not gonna get that high, but
I think Spider-Man's going to beat Doomsday, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
I don't... I mean, unless Spider-Man turns out to be a complete dumpster fire.
Which I don't think... Like, the other thing, too, remember, is none of, like, the Spider-Man... Tom Holland Spider-Man films, obviously No Way Home was very well received, but that had more to do with having Toby and having the Spider-Man back. That was what made people walk away from it with positive. But when you actually broke down the story and other things, it still had the same flaws that the other Tom Holland films have. They're not the best of movies, but they're entertaining. And that's why they're making money, and that's why they're bringing people out there. So I wouldn't be surprised if this one's of the same caliber, where it's like, yeah, it's not really the greatest of movies, but it's entertaining. And that first time watching, people come away happy and enjoying what they're experiencing. But no, with that 20% of the gross, that is just because that brings up a whole new perspective. So just
of the studio gross, chat, the studio's gross, which is what we would call net back to studio. Yeah,
and
I know it's
perspective.
accounting stuff. Yeah.
So for some perspective, the total box office, the global box office that's currently been reported is 264-ish million.
Yeah.
Right. So right now, of that, the studio only has gotten about 124 million. Roughly.
Somewhere in there.
But the total cost is, again, I think closer to 400 million. They are claiming, 125 for their marketing. So that means they've made 124 million, but their spend was 375. So they're still minus 250.
Right.
Which is why you have to make 750 or more to actually break even, because you're not getting 100% of that total box office.
Right, and the cost, the escalator in the contract in this case, as Forbes is reporting, if their estimates or their information is correct, the escalator is now already climbing. If they've, let's just make the math easy and say they've made back now $125 million in box office.
Yeah.
What's 20% of 125 million? What's 20% of that? It's 25 million. So that means the cost just went up. The net cost for Universal just went up $5 million because they already gave Chris Nolan his $20 million advance. Now they already owe Chris Nolan from the opening weekend another $5 million on top of that. They've already breached the $20 million advance, right? And this is why Nolan can command it, because it basically is what the Forbes talks about, and I get it. It's a variation on the classic 20 against 20 deal that was standard in decades past for top actors like Tom Cruise, which he still gets it, Denzel Washington, and Tom Hanks. But today, it only exists for filmmakers who can guarantee a blockbuster with nearly every single release. Here, hello, Chris Nolan, right?
Yeah.
And again, I'm sure that the Russo brothers probably have a similar deal when it comes to stuff like Doomsday, because they can show, hey, we're the only guys that can make this work for you, Disney. You want us to do it again? You want us to save this franchise? Sign a check. Shut up. You've got to be able to do it. Chris Nolan can do it. And of course, Universal, who, when Chris Nolan expressed that he was, unhappy with Warner Brothers and then was out shopping, of course, Universal was going to throw the phone book in the kitchen sink at him, whatever he wanted. And he wound up with this great deal. I totally get it. So basically, what they're calculating is various deductions and fees could affect Nolan's share. Nobody gets true gross, goes the old Hollywood axiom. But if the Odyssey brings in more than $800 million globally this summer, that box office analysts predict that Nolan would be in line to make at least $75 million, which is almost 20%. So it's real. It's there.
So what do you think assuming the marketing is 125, total spend 375, break even roughly 750. This is the thing I showed on my stream too, is, I built this box office calculator, which is awesome. I love it. And one of the things that you can show though is where you make your money is very important, because even though it has a higher total, like you look at the total box office, you see that international's higher right now, domestic's lower. They've made more money from the domestic though, because of the returns they get, right?
Sure.
It's roughly 55% or so from the domestic side, about 40% from the international. And so even though the international number is higher, they've gotten a lot less back from that than their domestic. So that's why when we say break even, right, roughly 750, because if they're making a certain amount of money domestically versus internationally, that number could actually go a lot higher. Marketing costs also affect it too. So that's why now, with this into account, knowing that the break even is about 750, maybe between 750 800, what would then that 20% make the break even for it?
It's going to keep pushing it up, right? So it's basically the break even continues to climb. Like right now, if the 20% gross rule is in play, and it's been done before, like I said, we knew, like Tom Cruise, his deal with Maverick was they had, I think he got $10 million up front. I remember he wasn't writing and directing it, but he got $10 million up front, and that was just an advance. And then he had, I forget what we calculated a few years ago when it came out. We did the numbers, and we said, Tom Cruise walked out of there with like $100 million of that in his pocket. Okay. Because he had escalators in that contract. So every time the movie did this, he got higher percentages and higher percentages. So let's just say this is a flat 20. So right now we already know, based on the weekend, like I just said, they already owe Chris Nolan another $5 million. So we've already stacked $5 million on the break-even point Sunday. And every day that's going to go up now. So, I mean, because we've cleared the $20 million advance, right? $260 million. If they just got $125 million of that back, we're already $5 million over. So, I mean, at 20%, a $200 million retail box office, if initial projections had come true, would have maybe yielded back around $100 million, ergo $20 million of that to Chris. Oh, we already paid you that $20 million. So we're not adding to it. But every dollar basically passed $200 or $220 million at the box office this weekend is adding to the cost. Because of the escalators for Nolan. So, like, you could almost calculate it. I mean, we don't have the international figures, obviously, on a daily basis, but at least once a week, you could be updating the break-even figure. Because by the time we get to Sunday, and it's like, okay, last Sunday we were at 260. This Sunday now we're at 500. Okay, well, 240 million of that is coming back to Universal. That means Chris Nolan's entire price tag is now at 48 million in that case. We've already paid him 20. Theoretically, that first 20 million is already factored into that 250. So now we're at 28. So 20, in addition to the 20 we've already paid Chris, now we owe him another 28. See, that number just keeps going up. So, and then he's going to get excluding the box office for a second, and I'll go back to the article again just to kind of give everybody a clear picture on it. Here we go. If the Odyssey brings in more than 800 million globally this summer, as the box office analysts project, Nolan would be in line to make at least 75 million. Video on demand sales, meaning PVOD in physical media, and payouts from the pay one window, the first streaming window, which is Universal itself is Peacock, and the bigger pay is Netflix. Video on demand streaming sales in the first window could easily push past his initial Oppenheimer total of 85 million before paying taxes and fees to agents and lawyers blah blah blah. It's going to be over 100 million. He's going to Tom Cruise this thing. Yeah. So I mean, he's going to be owed probably easily $100 million once you see the announcement for whatever the release date on Netflix is, which will be about 120 days after it hits Peacock.
Yeah. So for perspective, I mean, obviously we don't know what the final domestic's going to be. We don't know what the final international is going to be, but that's why I love my calculator, because I can just throw in random numbers. So let's say it gets $900 million globally. Let's say that's like its endpoint. Let's say 350 of that's from the domestic, 550 is from the international. The studio revenue from that would be about 412.5, which means a net of 37.5. The problem is that when you then take out 20%, I believe that then means that you haven't broken even yet.
Right.
So again, it depends on where it makes its money, because if it flips, if it makes more domestic, international, well, then its break even actually gets a little bit lower. So, but that 20%, if this film barely makes $1 billion, there's actually a case to be made that it doesn't break even.
Well, that was my calculation, was that I looked at it and I said, okay, let's just even it out and say the return is 50% to simplify things.
Yeah.
At $1 billion, at $1 billion of retail box office, okay, $500 million coming back, again, making the math simple, $500 million coming back to the studio. The studio's gross, right? Not retail's gross, but the studio's gross.
Mm-hmm.
That's $100 million to Chris Nolan. They've already paid him 20, so that's an extra $80 million they owe him. At $1 billion, yeah, they're basically just treading water. They're at break even at that point. And again, largely because of this escalator in the contract for Nolan's paycheck.
Wow.
Is what it is, kids. And
It'd be hilarious if it hits that, barely hits that, and then the reason why it loses money is because of Nolan, and you're like, yep, that actually is perfect symmetry and harmony with everything that's in that dang movie.
Yeah. And look, here's the thing. I mean, they're going to have a huge paycheck. If this thing gets to $1 billion, I mean, the value of the Netflix contract that's going to be allocated to the Odyssey was probably going to be like
They're going to make their money
million.
after the fact for sure.
Oh yeah. They're probably going to qualify like $200 million of the Netflix contract to the Odyssey, or at least 150 if it does $1 billion at the box office. Because you have to look at it from the standpoint of, you know, what would somebody pay to acquire a pay one window of a movie on the open market that did $1 billion of global box office in 2026? And pay one is 18 months. Now, granted, Netflix is only getting it for 10 of that. So Peacock, basically Universal, is going to be paying out of its own pocket again to Chris Nolan after it leaves the theater to pay him for the portion of the Peacock stuff and then cough ups. So yeah, they're going to make money on it. And I think even still at the theater, they'll come close.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be there. But don't be so fast on, you know, when it hits 800 million, okay, did it break? Well, if everything was static, if we pretended everything was static, then sure. But it isn't.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.